So during setup, I thought that I was telling the Cleveland City Club that I thought I had to be a very important person to stand on the stage and ring the gong. I'll let you know I'm not a very important person, though. My name is Laura Jean Flagger, and on behalf of the Cleveland Bridge Builders Program, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's event. And before we get started, I want to make sure we issue a special thank you to Cleveland's City Club for allowing us to be here and hosting us this evening. Before we get started, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about the Cleveland Bridge Builders Program. It is part of the Cleveland Leadership Center and brings together mid-level professionals for a 10-week program that fosters education, growth, learning to create an impactful engagement into our civic community. As part of that 10-week program, we come together as teams of 6 and are matched up with different nonprofits across Cuyahoga County to help organizations advance some of their mission and transformational goals that they have set out for the year. Our team has been matched up with the Literacy Cooperative, and we have been focusing over the past 10 weeks to help the Literacy Cooperative, as well as some of their partnerships and other organizations, promote and encourage literacy across our community. Tonight is an event that is a capstone project of that work, and so we're very excited to share with you 7 organizations that are working across our community to promote literacy for the communities and the youth in them. Before we switch to the PechaKucha event, I'd like to take just one more moment and recognize the entire team that is here tonight. So if our team from the Cleveland Bridge Builders Program, if you could stand up. And thank you. Excellent. So now I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Joe, who is going to share with you a little bit about what a PechaKucha is and give you kind of a lay of the land before we get started.
So tonight is a Powered by PechaKucha event, and if you're not familiar, it's essentially a presentation format where you have each presenter has 20 slides that will automatically advance after 20 seconds. It started out of Japan, and the idea behind it was it's a format to keep presentations brief, get to the point and move on, but still be effective. PechaKucha, there's a local chapter in over 900 cities. We do have a local chapter here. You may have attended other PechaKucha events. Can I see a show of hands of anyone that's been to a PechaKucha event in Cleveland? Not bad. So I know they're on Twitter, so you can follow them there. I believe they have a Facebook page as well. So if you're interested and you like this format, I encourage you to definitely check out one of their future events. So this talks a little bit about the format that I said, 20 images, 20 seconds. Here's a little video that details it as well.
PechaKucha is a Japanese word for chit-chat, and is the name of a presentation format created in Japan in 2003 by Astra and Mark Dyson, 2 architects looking for a way people could share their work quickly and simply in public. Since then, their ideas spread to over 700 cities around the world. For every PechaKucha night, creative thinkers come together and share their ideas with only 20 images shown for 20 seconds each. PechaKucha, a fast, fun format. Find a location. Join the conversation.
So to start off the presentation, I'd like to introduce Bob Paponetti from the Literacy Cooperative. He will be our first presenter.
So I feel like I'm at the starting line of a 100-meter dash, and I'm much more of a distance runner. I like to take a long time to do this, so this will be interesting. Okay. 10 years ago, the Literacy Cooperative was created when a report came out that showed that 69% of the adults in the city of Cleveland were considered low literate. And if you took our county as a whole, it's 47% of the adults are low literate. Based on this report, representatives from the Cleveland, Gund, and Jennings Foundation came together and found that we have a lot of literacy programs in Cuyahoga County, but there wasn't one organization working strategically around this issue. Now, to put some of those percentages I gave you into perspective, 69% equates to 200,000 adults in the city of Cleveland are below an 8th grade reading or math level. And in the county, it's more than 435,000. To put that into further perspective, you could fill every seat in Progressive Field, First Energy Stadium, the Q, the Wolstein, Playhouse Square, and other venues, and still have 260,000 people waiting to get in. Now, we know that literacy has a generational effect. Higher educated parents typically have higher educated children. And conversely, lower educated and lower literate parents have children who are unprepared to begin kindergarten. In fact, in the city of Cleveland, more than 80% of children who begin kindergarten are assessed as not being fully prepared to begin kindergarten. So it's no surprise one of our first initiatives was to identify a kindergarten readiness initiative. And we found Spark, which was in Canton, Ohio, which is where a tutor actually goes to the home to work with a parent and the child to help that child get ready for kindergarten. Knowing that there are going to be children who are going to begin school unprepared, we looked for an initiative to try to make the volunteer tutor intervention a little more effective. And so we came up with a model called STEP, which is really provides training and preparation for the volunteer tutor and give them a structure to work by. On our adult side, research shows that adults go to programs, literacy programs, when they want to get a job or they want to get into a training program that will give them the skills to get a job. So a lot of our work around us is connecting adult literacy to workforce training and career pathways. Further research shows that if you contextualize that curriculum, make it more relevant to the training, adults are going to stay in the program longer and have greater gains in shorter periods of time. Now, we're a very competitive group here in the United States, and we're very proud of our Olympic team that we're always at the top of the standings. And for this reason, I thought that when an international report came out in the fall of 2013 that showed that we aren't number one in literacy in the world, it would really raise awareness. Well, in fact, in digital literacy, we were 16th out of 24 countries. In reading, we're 18th out of 24, and math, 21st out of 24 countries. Now imagine for a moment if our U.S. Olympic team finishes 18th in the Olympics. They're battling out with Poland for most medals. There would be outrage across the country. Everybody would be talking about it. Now, one of the good things that came out of this report called the PEAC was that the U.S. Department of Education decided to go out and get feedback from people around this issue. And they went to a number of cities, Chicago, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Mississippi. They didn't come to Cleveland, Ohio, so we did our own. And we worked with our partners at the Center for Community Solutions, the Cleveland Foundation, and Third Federal, and had more than 75 partners came in and provided a lot of input. Now, one of the good things or interesting things that came from that is that many people came up to me and said, I'm not a policymaker and I'm not a funder. What can I do? And so we came up with our top 10 list of things people can do to improve literacy in our community. Now, while the literacy engagement event and the top 10 brought us a lot of good headlines, and we wrote letters to the newspaper when the governor introduced his budget, those things are great, and it helped us raise awareness, but we really felt that we needed to do more, and we needed to do better use of social media. And so in 2014, in preparation for International Literacy Day, which is September 8th, we decided to embark on a social media campaign where we asked people to take a picture of themselves reading their favorite book and to post it on our hashtag literacy selfie. It was really fun, and we also had a national speaker come to here at the City Club and speak. But it was really fun with this hashtag thing that we had hundreds of people submit pictures. Notably, U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown and his wife Connie Schultz were some of those that participated. We even had mentioned in the New York Times of what we were doing here. The next year, we wanted to further expand our media presence, and we partnered with WKYC and Third Federal Foundation on another campaign called the We Read Here. This one was a little more focused on children, and we asked parents, again, take a picture of themselves reading with their children or a video, and WKYC would play those on the news. This year we decided to add a blog to our website where we're highlighting many of those organizations that have an impact on literacy that you just don't know they do literacy. And we're working closely with our Cleveland Bridge Builders partners, we're one of the leadership action projects. And so they're actually finding those organizations and putting the content together for our blog. This year on International Literacy Day, we're going to do something a little different. September 8th, we're going to do a corporate spelling bee. We're asking corporations and other community organizations to enter a team of 3 of their employees that will compete with other organizations, team of 3 employees, to find out who's got the best spellers in Cleveland. And it's going to be right here, September 8th, in the evening. Hope you can be here. It'll be a lot of fun. So what would I like you to, I've talked really fast here for almost 6 minutes. What would I like you to remember about what we do? We were created to coordinate and to align. And I've given you a couple examples of how we've done that. In some cases where we identify, when I say we, we're talking about we with our partners. We identify a gap or an opportunity. We may identify a best practice, and we bring it here to Cleveland, and we incubate it or we demonstrate its effectiveness. And then lastly, we advocate. We advocate for good policy, for good practice, but most importantly, we advocate for those in our community who are low literate, who need an opportunity to connect to education or workforce development for themselves and for their family. If you're Twitter people, if you're Facebook, if you're Instagram and all that other good stuff, there's all of our important information. I think they call them handles. Go to our website, learn more about what we do, and thank you all for being here.
One thing I forgot to mention, if you have a program, we encourage you to share, statistics, interesting statistics and facts that you learn from the presenters. All the social media handles for Twitter and the relevant hashtags are located in the program on the inside here. So we encourage you to share them via social media. Next, I'd like to present Geisse, the program manager of America Scores Cleveland.
So is it 20 seconds on this? Okay. So this one will be 20 seconds? Okay. The next one will come up. Okay. Just want to make sure I get everything right. Okay. Hi. I'm Geisse. I'm the program manager at America Scores Cleveland. Okay. We are a health and literacy focused after school program. We currently are in 9 schools throughout the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Our focus is working with urban public school children in grades 1st through 8th, and we also have an alumni program for high school students. So we do our programming in 2 very unique ways. We use soccer and poetry after school. So our program provides all of our participants with 3 days of soccer and 2 days of poetry each week. And each Friday we have a game day where participating schools play each other. So we use soccer as the bait to get our kids interested in our program, but literacy is the goal. We practiced that on the way over. So we hire school teachers and administrators to run our programs in the school, which means that teachers who spend all day with their children end up coaching for us soccer and writing. They follow a set scores curriculum, which ensures that they're teaching the standards and poetry devices that we're interested in teaching. So our challenge is to expose our children to works of literature, to encourage daily writing, and to foster a lifelong love of learning and reading. Our founder, Julie Kennedy, found that using poetry really engaged urban youth in a new and exciting way and got them interested in writing. So we accomplished this, our goals, through using a team-based approach to learning, which ensures that the social and emotional needs of our children are met first. Our teams and coaches stay together all week long, so they do writing together as a team and they do soccer together as a team. And our coaches stress values like cooperation and compromise in both settings. So, did I skip something? No, okay. So the team-based approach to writing, we offer 2 curriculums in 2 seasons, so fall and spring. In the fall, we focus on poetry, and in the spring, we focus on service learning. Both seasons end with a big team project. So team poetry What it looks like is in the first half of the fall season, kids work on their own writing. So they create about 10 pieces of original work. And then towards the end of the season, they start working on one team poem that they co-write together. And they perform that poem at the Poetry Slam, which we have every November. So our teams come up in their little soccer jerseys, and they've put together this one poem that they perform. They have movements memorized. They have all their lines memorized. They recite the poem in front of over 700 people. And then after each team performance, one individual from that team will stay up on stage and perform their own individual poem that they've written themselves. It's a very momentous occasion. You see kids hugging each other after the event. They're very excited. So this year, we had our individual poet, which is what we call them. Her name was Feliciana. So our individual poet one of our individual poets will get selected to go to the National Slam, which is a slam between all of our 14 Scores affiliates across the nation. So one child from each of these affiliates will go to New York City and perform in front of corporate sponsors, national sponsors. So this year we had Feliciana. She's a 4th grader at Fullerton Elementary in Slavic Village. When she first started the program this fall, she was behind 2 to 3 years in all of her academics. She was throwing chairs in the classroom, stomping out of class, having a lot of issues. This child found her voice in poetry. She wrote a poem called Confusion. It's about the mixed messages she receives in her life and how she feels because of it. She's performed this poem not just in Cleveland, not just at the National Slam. She's also performed in front of over 1,000 people at the United Way annual luncheon and also at the P16 meeting. Every time she gets a standing ovation. She's amazing. So this is another poem from one of our poet athletes, which is what we call them. This is a poem by Aaliyah. She's a 5th grader from the West Park neighborhood. Living in Cleveland is about the violence that she sees in her community. She's also performed on various stages and will perform at our fundraiser this June. And the last poem that you're going to see here in a minute is an example of a team poem. So here you see the Wade Park boys. They're from the Huff neighborhood. They wrote a poem all together called I Stand. It's a promise to stand against violence, to stand for peace, to stand up to bullying. You see them there in their matching soccer jerseys and pants, holding up their hand and sort of pledging to the audience that they're going to be leaders in their community. So over and over again, we get asked why poetry. To me, it's pretty self-explanatory. Our kids find a voice in poetry. We make the learning personal. We make it team-based. We make it so that they are encouraged to share their voice. And when they get up on that stage, it's even more of an act of empowerment, claiming their story, claiming their experiences as their own. We also see tangible results from our programming. Across the board, we see writing scores improve. We see behavior improve. We see reading assessments improve. In our 1st and 2nd graders, we do Dolch sight words with them, and we see 100% improvement with their word recognition. We also hear from parents, from teachers, from coaches, from school administrators that behaviors improve, attendance it gets better. Kids come to school so that they can go to scores afterwards. And you see here a quote in the middle from a parent. So in the future, what we would like to do is grow. Right now, we're only in 9 schools. We're serving about 600 kids a year. We'd like to grow that number. We'd like to reach more schools, and we'd like to expand vertically in those schools so that all age groups are served in all schools. Right now, what we're working on is a middle school poetry slam so that our 6th through 8th grade poet athletes can have a poetry slam of their own. We find that the slams really encourage kids to write, and since that's what we want to do, that's what we're going to do. This is my last slide. I just feel like this kind of sums up what we do. At the end, it's about camaraderie, it's about working together, it's about self-expression and supporting each other through that. This is a picture of the Wade Park girls giving themselves a big hug after they performed at the slam. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Families Learning Together. We have Pam today, and you tell me when you're ready.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm ready. Good evening. I'm Pam Jankowski. I'm the Director of Literacy and Learning from Cuyahoga County Public Library. Susan Sheehan from Parma was supposed to be here today, but her daughter-in-law decided to have a child. So, in 2012, Ohio enacted the third grade reading guarantee. Any third grade student who scores below the minimum reading standards is retained in third grade. In 2013-14 school year, 3 of the 10 school districts with the highest number of retained students were located in Cuyahoga County. Why are so many students in Cuyahoga County struggling? One way to prevent the summer learning slide. Research has found that disadvantaged children lose significantly more reading skills than their middle-class peers over the summer months. At best, students showed little or no academic growth over summer, and at the worst, students lose 1 to 3 months of the learning. Adults also struggle. In Cuyahoga County, 12% of adults ages 25 and under do not have a high school or GED diploma. Adults without a high school diploma earn 42% less than those with the high school diplomas. Adult learners face many challenges towards obtaining their GED, such as the fear of the unknown, low self-esteem, low technology skills, and child care. So why do families learning together matter? Because a mother's reading skill is the greatest determinant of her children's future academic success. Because adults are motivated to learn about things that they believe to be relevant and practical. If learning will benefit their children, they will make it happen. And because the family unit in all of its iterations is the one constant across the education spectrum. Therefore, 3 partners have come together to offer a family summer enrichment program. Center for Art-Inspired Learning, Cuyahoga County Public Library, and Parma City Schools. Both the parent and the children are engaged in interactive activities relevant to their family's interests and needs. The library's goal is to increase families' usage of library resources, such as the number of books that they borrow, the number of books they read together, the number of library programs they attend, because we know the more they utilize these resources, the more likely they are to succeed academically. During the program, adults will spend 40 hours in class working on skills needed to succeed to pass the GED test. We expect the students to increase educational functional level by the end of the programs. The adults will also increase the time they spend doing educational activities with their children, such as reading, art, and utilizing library resources. The Center for Art-Inspired Learning's goal is to expose families to the pleasures and relevancies of artistic expression by supporting the creation of original artwork related to literacy, by connecting reading to artistic expression, by increasing time spent by families in art-making activities. Because we know it's vital for families to spend time together on activities in order to nurture a commitment to lifelong learning. We began recruitment with the current GED students and then expanded all of our families to the Parma City School District. We have a few spots that are still open, and we have begun promoting to other GED providers and through Cuyahoga County Public Library's website. While adults are preparing for the GED, their children are working on artistic projects related to literacy. Families then come together for lunch along with the instructors. This is the time when instructors build trusting relationships with families. Afterward, families work on art projects together, allowing them to experience the pleasure and relevancy of art. In order to keep adults engaged, they must see the relevancy in what they are learning. Therefore, all parents have come together for joint planning sessions so that the family is the topic in the GED lessons and the artwork. For example, adults will read magazine articles during GED, and family storytelling will be the catalyst for the artwork. Adults will improve their basic skills as they master the information needed to pass all 4 parts of the GED. Adults will also learn the importance and specific skills needed to read with their children. Digital literacy is also addressed by using an e-reader to download the library's digital collection. Knowledge taught in multiple contexts is likely to support the transfer of learning from one domain to another. Through arts-integrated literacy, students find reading and writing more meaningful and become better storytellers. An important element to the program is the family activity session. During this time, parents develop confidence in their ability to support their child's learning. They learn the importance of their involvement and learn easy ways to support learning at home. Through families learning together, adults are seeing the value of their own educational accomplishments. They learn that spending time with their children on educational activities is fun, easy, and valuable. They learn about the many resources available at Cuyahoga County Public Library, and lifelong learning becomes relevant and attainable. To be successful in the next decade, students will need to navigate a rapidly changing landscape of skill requirements. Today's children have careers in fields not yet determined. Therefore, it's paramount that parents instill in their children a love of learning. Workers need to be adaptable, lifelong learners. Public libraries are in a unique position to offer family learning programs. We are a safe, trusted, and inclusive community hub. We are one of the only educational institutions that serves the learning needs of all from birth to seniors. But our true strength is in our ability to connect key players in the educational fields to meet the community needs. There's a story of a young lady picking up one starfish at a time and throwing them back into the ocean. When the old man asked why bother when there are millions to save, she stated, "I made a difference for that one." This is a virtuous message. However, I would argue that well-being of the child is dependent upon its parents, and the parents' well-being is dependent upon the child. Therefore, we must address the entire family's literacy needs in order to sustain impact. Thank you.
Next, we have Debi Abela, the Early Childhood Program Associate from University Circle, Inc.
Well, good evening. So the ELI program is one of 4 educational programs that make up University Circle, Inc., or UCI's Community Education Department. It is a literacy-based program that introduces preschool children to concepts and vocabulary related to themed museum visits, nature center activities, musical performances, and theater productions. We are currently closing out our 19th year. We impact 950 mostly low-income preschool students and about 100 of their teachers. We are in both the public and private classroom in Cuyahoga and Lorain counties. So to help better visualize the program, we've broken it down into 3 components. We have the engagement that takes place before the field trip, the actual field trip, and the engagement that takes place afterwards. This allows multiple exposures to the concepts and the vocabulary words that we are introducing to the kids. So before the trip, we have, with every field trip, we have a classroom learning kit that is delivered to the teacher with materials to complement the topic of that particular trip. The slide you're looking at here, these are materials from the living and non-living field trip to the Cleveland Botanical Garden. So one of the ways to use the kit materials in the classroom, is to incorporate them into the learning centers. Here the teacher has incorporated the ELI items in her science table. The theme for this particular visit was harvest. We have some of our books in the background, we have our materials on the table, and she's included some seeds for examining. So what would a literacy program be without books? We always have a nice assortment in each kit. We make sure we vary between fiction and nonfiction. We make sure the text complexity varies amongst the books. The books you see here are from the transportation-themed field trip at the Cleveland History Center. So in addition to the materials, every teacher receives a curriculum guide with each packet. And within this packet, there is a vocabulary sheet of which we highlight 5 of those vocabulary words, and those are the focus of the engagement throughout the whole field trip. So also, before each trip, an ELI educator gets to go into the classroom to introduce the topic through an introduction lesson.
We always make sure we bring hands-on materials to really engage the kids and get them excited to go on their trips. This particular introduction lesson was for the Nature Center at Shaker Lakes. The one you're viewing here, this one was an introduction lesson for the Children's Museum, where the group was getting ready to experience the Centuries of Childhood exhibit. So what we did was we had brought in clothing from each represented time period, had the kids dress up to help encourage the conversation before they went on the trip. For the actual field trips themselves, we work closely with the educators at each institution to make sure the trips are developmentally appropriate and engaging for this age group. We really like to take advantage of the self-discovery and free exploration that these informal learning activities do provide. In this particular slide, the kids are at the Cleveland Botanical Garden. They are outside in the garden, and the theme of their trip is soil. So what you see here is they are getting ready to collect their soil specimens. Now, if there is one topic this age group knows inside and out, it is dinosaurs. So this particular trip at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, two of their vocabulary words were fossils and tools. What you see here, they are using their tools to uncover their fossils. And then one last one about the field trip, MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art, where we introduced our preschoolers to this exhibit. They process art like we process art. You take it in and you relate it to what's going on in your life. The number one exclamation from that particular exhibit was, "Who's going to clean that up?" So after the field trip, we provide field trip journals to every preschooler so they can recall their experiences of the trip. We ask that the teacher ask them to draw one thing that they saw and one thing that they did. So the teacher really does play an important part in implementing the ELI curriculum into their classroom. We are able to provide professional development coaching to the teachers to help them successfully do this. And this actually has changed shape throughout the years depending on the needs of the classroom and the state. So this particular extension activity, this is a mural that took place after the soil field trip. So the kids had their soil specimens and then they examined it. And this is a result of the things that they found, living or non-living, in their soil. So in addition to the field trips, we are also able to provide 3 family days each year. We have them at the different museums. We invite out our families. We pay for their admission, for their parking, and we provide lunch for them. We have them come out, usually it's on a Saturday, and invite them to spend the day with us at the museum. We also always bring activities to help encourage that child-adult interaction and conversation. I will tell you, the families love this, but we really love it more. It's really nice to see everybody. The kids get super excited to kind of show their adult parts around the museum because, that's their territory. They've been there before. So this is my closing slide. I chose this because the expressions are priceless. We really do. The trips are all about self-discovery and meaning. And, of course, we slide the vocabulary in there. But I hope I was able to give you a little glimpse into what we do with the resources we have in the University Circle. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Mahogani Graves. She's our program coordinator at Metro Health for our Reach Out and Read program, started by Dr. Needleman. So tell me when you're ready.
Thank you so much for having me. As Jessica said, I'm the site coordinator at the Broadway Metro Health Center for the Reach Out and Read Ready to Learn program that's partnered with WVIZ PBS's Ready to Learn initiative. And so I'm first going to just describe each program separately. The Reach Out and Read program is a nonprofit organization where medical providers provide books to kids at their well child care visits. What they do during those visits is prescribe a developmentally age-appropriate book to that child and also provide advice to parents on how to use that book to engage them in learning and reading. The idea is to create a library of books in the home and stress the importance of reading aloud to your child at an early age. This slide here is just a chart to show how the medical providers can check a child's motor development skills over the course of 5 years, and just looking at how they hold the book, how they use that, what's the parent interaction with the child, and they are able to provide them advice regarding that. This is an example of what the medical exam rooms look like. They're decorated in PBS program decals, and they provide a space to engage families and educate parents in a non-threatening way. The reason why we do this is because it has a great impact as far as the timing of the intervention. We know that the first 5 years of life are very vital into a child's learning. The program, it is supported by 15 independent studies that basically state with kids who have gone through the Reach Out and Read program are 3 to 6 months ahead of those who have not. And so this is so important to what we're trying to accomplish and help children in becoming successful when they start school. This leads me to the Broadway P16, which emerged from the Third Federal Foundation. It's led by President Kurt Carrico, and it has played a huge part in the coming together of these two programs and its fantastic networking. The mission states that every young person in the Broadway Slavic Village neighborhood experience high-quality learning that builds their strengths and passions, expands their resiliency, and helps them find fulfillment. This mission also aligns with those of the Reach Out and Read Ready to Learn program. Here you will see a diagram, and it basically just shows how we can make a difference in the community, the interconnected challenges that families face pertaining to transportation, housing, and all of the different things that our families go through when it comes to trying to educate their children at an early age. We found in our neighborhood that 80% of the children entering kindergarten were not ready or failed the crawl assessment in the 4 K through 8 Broadway Slavic Village schools. Last year, we also found that there were only 30 free pre-K seats available in our neighborhood. So this just goes to show the educational crisis. Broadway Metro Health as a hub in the village. You see that, we had 3,065 Reach Out and Read visits over the course of time. It's the largest county hospital, so it just makes it a great place to have a program like this. Now I'd like to change the focus to WVIZ. They have a mission that aligns with that of the Broadway P16 as well as the Reach Out and Read program, and it reaches into U.S. households with quality educational content that is free, and it is proven to prepare children for success. Here, the Ready to Learn grant funding produced extensive studies that prove that PBS Kids prepares children for school. It boosts early literacy, it strengthens parent support for early learning, and improves summer learning by closing the gap of out-of-school time when they're on vacation. The PBS Kids targets a goal of providing education to early learners in low-income homes, and this graph just documents that they are, in fact, reaching more kids, 2 to 8, in low-income homes than any other children's network. Funded by the Ready to Learn grant funding, WVIZ Idea Stream established a partnership with Metro Health Broadway Clinic to engage parents in a way that built upon the pre-existing family literacy outreach provided by the Reach Out and Read program through well child care visits. And so the beauty of this partnership came out the Reach Out and Read Ready to Learn program, and it presents a unique opportunity to engage children and families in what we call the learning room instead of the waiting room. We're able to promote early childhood education using volunteers to demonstrate simple reading strategies with parents in a fun and engaging way. We've been able to engage more than 1,500 children and families over the course of the year. And not only that, but through our other partnerships, we've increased our volunteer participation 83%. This past January, we started an internship program with Cleveland State and Case Western University, and we're allowing students to find the wealth of knowledge in a field that we know that we could use a lot of careers in this field. Our partners whom we have built and sustained great relationships with helps to extend our reach from just the waiting area out into the community. And so by coming together as a unit and carrying our youth from pre-K to elementary on to high school, it ensures that they will become successful adults and just strive to fulfill their purpose in life. So here's the success story. Earlier I talked about many students don't attend preschool. We only had 30 free pre-K seats, and we came together, and now I'm so happy to say that there are now 380 free pre-K seats in the Broadway Slavic Village neighborhood. So our future is to increase that number from 380 to 500 by the time next year comes, continue our partnerships with the colleges in hopes that they will lead to careers in this field and expansion. So we would love to have a strong presence across Cleveland and continue to grow while making an impact in the lives of children in the city. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dan Hahn. He's the Vice President of Community Engagement and Education at Playhouse Square.
Thank you.
Let me know.
Are you like me? When you think of third grade, you think of polyester clothes and maybe your mom giving you a bowl haircut in the kitchen, or nights at McDonald's were just as special as a trip to the roller rink back in those days. And third grade really consisted of memories of lunchroom antics and maybe some dodgeball bruises. Well, if you are like me, you may have a third grader of your own running around the house, and if you've ever tried to lend a hand with homework, you may have noticed that something as simple as third grade math has changed since we were memorizing our multiplication tables, and the academic pressures our third graders are now facing is really of a different sort than I recall. Now take, for example, the third grade guarantee. Doesn't she look happier than that other fellow? She's got that graduation cap on, that third grade diploma in hand. When I heard about this law a few years ago, I was conflicted. On the one hand, it doesn't seem to make much sense just to pass kids who can't read, but what are the potential impacts of retaining 8-year-old children? And what does that mean for the future of these kids? So I knew immediately what I had to do. As vice president of the largest performing arts center in America outside of New York City, I would save these struggling third graders with an interactive arts program second to none. But I needed some dance partners who weren't afraid to take a leap of faith on a literacy program that existed at this point only in my mind. So I approached 3 schools: Oxford Elementary in Cleveland Heights, where I had a friend on the school board; Crestwood Elementary in Elyria, where a director of academic services was willing to take a meeting with me over the summer; and Denison Elementary, where I had partnered in the past on some other outreach initiatives with some degrees of success. Now, the state of Ohio sets third grade proficiency at 75% of the students passing. So these 3 targeted schools at the time were well short of that mark. And although Crestwood had the highest score of our selected schools, they fell about the middle of the pack in the Lorain County School District, and the same was true for Denison. Oxford Elementary was actually dead last among its district. So multiple studies revealed that students who act out stories they read in the classroom score significantly higher on standardized comprehension tests than those who simply just talk about the stories when they're done reading them. Also notable is that students who dramatize stories learn to visualize what they read and apply that visualization skill in the future. So Playhouse Square engaged 2 of the region's top teaching artists, Missy Crum and Eric Perusik, with whom I had worked for a number of years when I was education director director of Great Lakes Theater Festival. I had extensive experience working with students of diverse economic and cultural backgrounds, and they were very eager to jump in on this new educational program. So we wanted the teaching artists to spend an entire school year just observing third grade teachers' teaching techniques, visiting each school 1 day a week on a rotating basis in 2013. The idea is to develop interactive lesson plans with the classroom teachers, and then the following year, if we were successful, visit not once a month, but once a week. So we were essentially asking the schools to take a giant leap of faith with us. Essentially, let us come into your most high-pressure testing grade, the third grade. If the students don't pass, they're retained by state law. And none of these administrators knew who we were when we walked in the door for these initial meetings. So as you can imagine, we were met with some questions. You want to send teaching artists into every third grade classroom for an entire year, once a week? Every week? What if this relationship doesn't pan out? How can we sacrifice that much classroom time? What are you guys actually going to be doing in the classroom once a week, every week for the entire year? Well, it didn't take very long for the teaching artists and the classroom teachers to start collaborating in earnest. And what we thought was simply going to be a year of observation quickly became a year of partnership, where the teaching artists were given classroom time just about from the start to really, truly start deeply engaging with these wonderful children. And so a typical schedule looks something like this. We would begin the day with a planning session with all of the third grade teachers. And then we would visit individual classrooms under the classroom teacher's guidance, so that by the end of the day, we served every third grade student in the school and engaged them in an interactive lesson plan that was co-developed with the classroom teachers. Now, at the end of our 2013-14 developmental year, we'd visit each classroom once every third week. All three schools showed some improvement on their standardized reading State of Ohio test. Now, we certainly understand there's multiple variables for this improvement, and our program was not demonstrably the primary cause, but still, increased test scores. That's good news. 2015, we were scheduled to begin visiting each school on a weekly basis. The Crestwood teachers came up with a different schedule. In addition to visiting the third grade classrooms once a day, we would now spend extra sessions with the students targeted as on the bubble and at risk and of not passing their reading exams. And those are the boxes at the bottom of that schedule. And so sometimes we worked in storage closets due to shortages of available space, but the idea was always the same. Reinforce literacy lessons. Improve student vocabulary, use drama as a learning medium in the classroom or storage closet to help the students improve their reading skills, and always do it in an engaging, interactive way. After our first year of weekly visits, the results are mixed. In Elyria and Cleveland Heights, our students scored higher, but in Cleveland we had a regression. Now, what makes measuring our results particularly tricky is the test changes every single year. And so many mitigating factors impact the results of student testing. We do note that in addition to the state standardized test, that each school implements its own internal testing measures. And all three schools' internal testing shows significant improvement across the board. But again, it's very difficult to prove that any one factor is predominantly responsible for driving any given test score. But what we do know is the work we're doing in the classroom is deeply appreciated by students, by teachers, and administrators. Now, do I wish the test wouldn't change every year? Yeah. Do I wish we could do a better job of measuring the true impact of our program? Yeah. But at the end of the day, are we making a difference in these kids' lives? Immeasurably so. Thank you.
For our final presentation of the evening, it's my pleasure to introduce the co-founder of the Kids Book Bank, Judi Payne.
I told him if I did a bad job to introduce me as the other Judi. I guess. So I am the co-founder of the Cleveland Kids Book Bank, and I'm delighted to be here because those of you who don't know about us need to. We're here because we know that kids need books. I guess I can go on without the slides. This works. This is actually, I prefer it this way. So as we know, the two most significant factors that contribute to the success for our kids, both in school and lifetime success, is being read to and having books in the home. And yet 2/3 of the kids in the city don't own a single book. And that's our mission in life, to change that. I'm speaking to the choir here. You guys all know that the first 2,000 days are critical, that language development starts during that time, and that books are a tremendous tool to make that happen. Books feed the imagination. Books expose kids to the neighborhood beyond, to the world beyond their neighborhood, and they get them ready for kindergarten. We started out by putting in little free libraries, and we got to the point where we had 60 in the city of Cleveland. The challenge? Keeping them stocked. We needed an endless supply of books. So, I'm waiting for the slide. In November of last year, we had an amazing game changer. A random phone call to a company called Discover Books led to an amazing partnership. Discover Books is the second largest online bookseller. So it turns out they not only have a plant on the West Coast and the East Coast, but they have one in Toledo, and they have books available. Judi and I, when we found out that they were sending 100,000 books to recycling a month, we couldn't get there fast enough. What we found was amazing quality books and fabulous people who wanted nothing more than to give us their books so that they would no longer go to landfills and rather go to your kids and mine. Believe me, that was a game changer for our organization, for some of your organizations, and I truly believe for the city of Cleveland. Well, Judi and I are kind of crazy. That was November, and we made the decision that by February 1, we were going to open our doors. So what did we do during that interim time? We got our 501c3. We got our name. We found a warehouse space. We got equipment donated. We laid out a plant and process. We recruited somebody who would design our logo, our website, help us figure out metrics so that we could evaluate where our books were going and we could track those from day one. Crazy time, very exciting. And on February 12th, we were ready for our first truckload of 40,000 gently used books. And this, Joe, is you. It was an exciting day when we got our first shipment, and that was on February 12th. And on February 13th, we did a dry run on processing the books because they are every reading level. And we needed to go through a process of sorting them and preparing them, sorting them by reading level, packing them, and getting them ready for the various distribution partners that would need them. We've had a ton of volunteers, and the interesting thing is they keep coming back because it's fun. We've had corporate groups, church groups, bridge builders. And the thing is, as we all know, we need to get books out for the early childhood, the first 2,000 days. So some examples of the way our books are being distributed would be 2,000 families a month are receiving our books through home visits. Outreach workers are delivering them to their homes along with their literacy message. Family child care providers, thanks to the Starting Point and technical advisors, are distributing our books again along with instruction or training on how to use those books to engage children. We have had partners like Experience Corps distributing 1,700 books before spring break to 17 CMSD schools. Pediatricians handing out our books. The detention center have books from the Kids Book Bank. Scouts came, they sorted books, and they took them back to feed Little Free Libraries, which remains one of our programs. And guess what? To our pleasure, teens, too, like books. We've had kids come from the Boys and Girls Club. They come, they sort the books, they take books for themselves and their families, and also for their clubs. Cleveland Central Catholic, same thing. They did a book giveaway. The kids were the ones who picked out the books that they thought that the fellow students would want. So in our first 3 months, I'm really happy to tell you that this slide is out of date. We've distributed more than 62,000 children's books in 3 months. This has been done with the help of more than 60 partner organizations. We don't hand them out one by one. And volunteers, we couldn't do it without our volunteers, our precious, precious volunteers, and we've had more than 350. So we couldn't be more grateful to be able to do the work that we do, and we also know that we couldn't do it alone. It takes our partners, it takes our volunteers, and we hope that you will join us, because together we can change the course of our city and make this a city of readers. And I invite you to join us. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. I think it was all these programs, you can see how impactful they are in the community. If you're interested in learning more, I'd encourage you to grab the presenters and find out how you can help those organizations. Along those lines as well, want to give a round of applause to all the presenters. They did a fantastic job. I want to invite Bob back up here from the Literacy Cooperative. As we mentioned, that was our organization for our lab project, and I'd like to let him say a few words in closing.
Well, I just want to echo what Joe already said. I mean, thank you all of you for being here. Special thanks to our lab team. I mean, you've done an incredible job really identifying. I'm blown away by, I know about some of these organizations, but I don't know deeply all of what they do. And I'm blown away by the resources we have here. So thank you for discovering some of the organizations and really putting this event on. And really to the presenters, y'all did a great job. And I know that there was a collective exhale as each person came back to the table like, whew, it's over. But it was a lot of fun. It was great. It was a great opportunity to do something different. And thank you for being here. As Joe said, reach out to the folks that are here. You all are involved in many ways to touch literacy, and I think we have an opportunity to change the situation here in our community. Thank you again so much. Thank you. Oh, yeah. That's so cool. The session is now ended.
There, I believe, was someone from the Cleveland Public Library that had an event they wanted to announce. So if you want to come mention that.
Good evening. My name is Tracy James, and I work with the On the Road to Reading program at the Cleveland Public Library. But I have a different hat on tonight. I'm on the committee for our Summer Reading Club. Pam, you talked about that summer slide. So we're trying to prevent that, and we're going to kick it off our Read Up, Rise Up CLE program this Sunday at Cleveland Metro Park Zoo. So if you know any children, be it Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, Summit County, tell them to come to the zoo, sign up for our summer reading club, and they get 2 free tickets to the zoo. So I know you guys are all literacy advocates, so I'm asking you to please spread the word. Thank you.